Are you ready?
Oh,
God, you're such a bitch. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Half-Ass Professionals, the new name of our show. Yeah, I know. We changed our names like we change our underwear once a week, once a month. But
well, we only do the show once a week.
we do the show once a week. But that thing actually came out of nowhere, and I didn't realize it. But going back and looking through a lot of these videos and cutting these videos, we refer to half-ass professionals of ourselves a lot, and just kind of stuck. It one of those things where BSC talks is kind of boring, so we are half-ass professionals now because, quite frankly, we are half-ass professionals. So today's video, we're talking about optics and their use case. So with the number one question we get from time to time is somebody buying a carbine, whether it's an AR, an AK, or some sort of modern sporting rifle variant. What optic do I need for my rifle? And it's a hard question to answer, especially in Ohio, where we live in the rural areas, so there's plenty of places that farms can go out 200, 300, 400 yards. But we're also really close to a major city that good luck finding 10 yards in a straight line. So what do you do and why? So that's kind of where we're going to start with this. We're going to keep it relatively short and sweet, talk about some of the staples in the industries, talk about some of the things that we personally recommend, and what we carry here at the shop, but don't let that dissuade you from getting what you want. But Andrew is I'm not going to call you subject matter expert, but you're a jack of all trades when it comes to this stuff. You have a lot more experience in the optics realm than what I do. So you're going to kind of drive this show. So without anything else, kick it over to you.
Absolutely. Just like Zach was saying, one of the most common questions we get in here is about what do you do with the gun after you buy the gun? You know, what do you need to do to accessorize it, to trick it out, to be able to take it out to the range, to do things with it? And so many people think that there's just like there's this right answer to that question. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is that it's all about the use case for that gun. And there's no better way to kind of showcase that than to talk about our #1 best-selling rifle optic, which is just a basic hollow sun red dot. If I had lots and lots of rifles that I wanted to take to the range and I just wanted to play with whenever, picking up some of these for very cheap, I know they're going to work. They're relatively reliable. The batteries last for years. And they're just going to be guns that are going back and forth to the range that I'm having fun with. These work absolutely great for that. And it's a very trustworthy design because it's based on the aim point, which we also sell here, but we sell significantly less because this is a drastically more expensive option.
What are you looking at price point? The Hollison's like sub $200, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And the Aimpoint T2 is...
We sell T1, we sell T2s and duty RDSs. You're going to be paying anywhere from $500 to $800 for one of those optics.
But why?
So that's the question, is why? And the reason why is something like this duty RDS, this is specifically designed to take the absolute beating of a commercial kind of use case. This is going in and out of a police cruiser. This is being dropped all the time by some soldier in the military. This is being absolutely beat and pounded, exposed to the worst conditions, the worst elements. Not a gun that's living on a wall or in a gun safe or being shot in an indoor range or something like that. So something like this aim point is where you'd want to go if you knew that's the kind of thing you were going to subject your AR to, or your rifle in general.
For zero magnification.
Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted just a simple red dot, point and shoot, take out to the range, get a good zero, and kind of just go from there. Most people with very little experience can use a very simple red dot to shoot accurately out to even a couple hundred yards.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most common misconceptions with glass, especially red dot, zero magnification stuff, is, oh, I want to shoot to 200 yards. I need this 5 to 25 honking magnified scope.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, if you can shoot, I mean, there's guys that shoot at up in Lake Erie, and when they shoot, the hell's the name of that? Oh my God, I can't think of it. The competition that shoot the Garands at like 600 yards.
Oh yeah, with just iron sights.
Yeah, they're hitting iron sights 600 yards. It's all about the reticle, and Hollison, I believe, 2 MOA.
Yeah,
and T2 is typically
It's also a 2 MOA.
yeah.
Yep.
So what that represents is essentially your impact point is a 2-inch circle to 100 yards. So 200 yards, you're a 4-inch circle. That dot is covering 4 inches of your target, but that's still inside of an A box on an IPSC target.
It's very easy with very little experience to learn how to shoot a couple 100 yards with a simple red dot.
Now H plays a factor. You know, if you can't see 200 yards, you're still screwed.
Absolutely. So that's where we start to get into some of the more magnified options and some of the prismatic options in the scopes too. It's become incredibly popular nowadays for people to put low power variable optics on their guns. I have an M4 SOP mod gun up here set up with an LPVO, and these are absolutely great because they give you kind of, some people would say, the best of both worlds, but it's kind of like the master of none, jack of all trades kind of trade-off, where you do get that almost 1x view where you got a lot of field of view, you get a lot of clarity like you do with a red dot, but you also do have the ability to get magnification if you choose to. Now, the big trade-off to LPVOs, the battery life's nowhere near as good. Durability of LPVOs generally is not as good. And, you know, you're dealing with the perils of a scope where you have more sensitive parts like the little turrets and the mechanisms and all the things that can break and go wrong.
But you also have the ability of variable magnification.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know if you spelled it out. I can't remember if you said it or not, but LPVO, low power variable optics.
Low power variable optic.
Low power being a 1 to 1.5x as your starting point. And then what we're seeing now, a trend in the industry anyway, is LPVOs when they first came out, 1 to 4, 1 to 6.
Yeah, 1 to 6 was a big one. 1 to 4 was pretty standard.
And then now we're seeing with a 34 millimeter tube for more light transmission is 1 to 10s. So I know that Primary Arms is doing a 1 to 10. I think the one that made it most famous is probably Vortex.
Yeah, the Vortex was kind of the industry leader for a long time, the Vortex Razor. The only real downside to going that big with an LPVO is you get the same downside of going big with any kind of scope. You add a lot of weight to the gun.
So you're saying is bigger is not better? I'm going to tell my wife.
No. I mean, if it's a gun that I had to carry all day long, I don't know if I'd want a big, heavy scope on it. You know what I mean?
That gets into use case.
Right.
That's what this video is all about. So let's finish going through what these optics do, and then we can kind of discuss use case for what we see here a lot, especially in Central Ohio. So moving on to from red dots to still in the 1X category, but what is the difference between a red dot, a tubular style red dot like this Holosun or that aim point compared to this EOTech?
So the EOTech, everybody's probably heard the name before.
You've played Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah. If you've played almost any video game or ever been a part of any police or any military or any talk to anybody who's ever owned guns, you may have heard of EOTech before. It's a holographic sight. They have very large windows with very clear glass. They have no deviation in the way that you aim, so it's very forgiving in your ability to line your eye up with it. There's no kind of there's no distance required for you to be able to see into it clearly, and they're extremely rugged. Absolutely extremely rugged. There's
famous cases of from the Marine Corps of guys taking 7.62 by 39 rounds off of the actual housing, and it's still holding zero.
Absolutely. And, you know, most police officers around the country have probably also used something like this as well. It's just an optic that would never die. It's going to run no matter what you do to it, and it's just going to be unstoppable and always hold its zero, no matter what the condition is. Now, the downside of a holographic is they're generally kind of the worst when it comes to battery consumption. A hologram consumes 10 times more battery than a simple laser dot does on the inside of a red dot.
Well, that, and then, so if anybody's ever looked through an EOTech, it looks pixelated.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for that, because it's not one laser diode. It's multiple laser diodes hitting multiple windows and coming up there and tracing that hologram on the actual reticle pane.
Right.
Which gives you that zero deviation in your aim point. They call it parallax, but it's essentially wherever you put the thingy on the thingy and pull the trigger, and your impact point is there.
You couldn't have explained it better. You put the thingy on the thingy and pull the trigger, and you're going to hit your target. I mean, it's
Obviously there's bullet drop, but
I mean, but they make EOTechs that have compensation for bullet drop built in.
True.
So
if you, let's say you zero at like a standard 36 meter zero or like a 25-yard zero, you put the thing on the thingy at your 0 point, it's going to impact exactly right there, regardless of where your head's lined up. And that's kind of the trade-off between the red dot versus the EOTech or a true holographic. And I think that's another big misconception in especially media marketing is they refer to anything that's a 1x optic as being holographic, and that's just not true, because it has to do with how the laser, the diode, emits that reticle onto the pane.
There are very, very few true holographic sites out there. There are a lot of optics that try to copy it and mimic it as best as they can, but nothing out there even comes close to touching an EOTech in terms of what its capabilities are, what its quality is.
If I remember right, I think, didn't EOTech serve through GWatt from day one?
Very close to, I believe. And EOTechs have been fielded on most law enforcement rifles here in country for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, by GWatt, Global War on Terror. Sorry, Andrew and I are vets, so the acronym gets thrown out quite a bit. So Afghanistan, Iraq.
So if you're looking for some sort of setup where you're looking for something very high quality, something that's going to be within a few hundred yards, pretty adaptable, an EOTech is absolutely a great option. Now, if you're looking for something to go a little bit above and beyond, you want a little bit of that reach out and touch, but also still have some great close-up capabilities. We have this prismatic optic right here, which is pretty much the most popular prism optic ever created, and that is the Trijicon ACOG.
And there's a reason why.
Yeah, so the Marine Corps switched to the ACOG quite a while ago now, and they're 4 power, which is not too powerful to still use at close range, but absolutely powerful enough to make shots out to 500 plus yards.
Well, we're very fortunate that one of our close friends is Delta 34 on YouTube, and if you want to know more about ACOGs and why the military uses them for so long, why we're big fans of them, he's got an entire series on the ACOG to the point where he took an original TA01 ACOG and just did the dirtiest things to it, including shooting it with green tip.
Oh, yeah.
And then put it back on the gun and held 0 out to 500 yards. So I'll tag his channel down here with the ACOG destruction video that he did, and he couldn't get it to die.
So the stories I've heard of what Marines have done to these things.
Well, Marines don't treat anything nice.
No, no, they don't. Not at all. I mean, even me, when I had one of these on my gun, I think there was multiple times where I slammed it in an armored door.
Yeah.
Or the rifle wasn't in the rack of the door right, and when I opened the door, it fell 10 feet to the ground and landed on rocks, and it doesn't care. It didn't lose its 0, nothing broke. The unit was barely scratched. They don't take batteries. They illuminate themselves, and they last longer than you'll be alive.
Most of them do. There are a couple models that do take batteries.
There's a lot of models of ACOG. But
well, yeah, it's because they have every color and every reticle and every magnification. So
they make them in every flavor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But the tritium that's on the top, the little bar that's on top, you can get them in red, green, and amber.
Mm-hmm.
That is a radioactive element that gives it power to illuminate the reticle, and it's based on intensity of light. So when you're outside, it's super bright.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you're inside, it's a little dimmer. So they're really sweet. I've personally shoot an ACOG on a few different rifles that I have. And one of the things I have to do when I take it outside, if we go to like Briar Rabbit to shoot outside, is I actually put tape on the top of it to cover like 3/4 of it, because it gets a little too bright, especially when you're trying to use the BDC inside of it, bullet drop compensator, to hit varying distances.
Yeah, if it's too bright, it can get really washed out. So if it's a very bright sunny day, covering this with a little bit of tape to kind of limit how much sunlight is going into the optic really, really helps with that.
But this is a piece of glass that will survive the apocalypse.
Absolutely.
It is powered with a way to light it up, but it also has an etched reticle on it too. So this thing will never die.
It won't. It will never die, and it's pretty much useful in just about every single situation. They make small ones, they make big ones. This is a normal sized one here at the 4X size. But if you were just looking for a do everything kind of optic, you could pick it up, you could understand exactly how it works, you could shoot close, you could shoot far, do literally everything, Also barely impacted by people with vision issues.
Yep.
Because it has that etched reticle. Even if you have an astigmatism, you'll still be able to use this fairly effectively, which is not true of most red dots. The ACOG is just amazing. What I particularly love about the ACOG is the amount of versatility you get for how heavy they are. They're extremely light optics. And when you talk about trying to get that same versatility out of something like a scope, you're talking double the weight. Easy for, you know, a nice...
Even the lightest of LPBOs
is still very heavy compared to an ACOG setup.
So before we dive into kind of use case here in Central Ohio and based on distances and frequency, let's talk very briefly on optic height. And the other thing I want to hit on before we get into optic height, because I think that's one of the most overlooked issues when buying glass, is how a tubular style red dot, not a holographic, not a prismatic, but an actual red dot is supposed to work. The way these are designed, and you can go back to the patent on these, is they're supposed to take place of your rear aperture and then co-witness with your front iron sight. So, because they have a lot more parallax or deviation from your impact point, if you line up on your rifle the same place every time, you're not going to see much deviation. But if you're an inexperienced shooter that doesn't line up on your rifle like it's, you know, muscle memory, then you'll see a little bit more ballistic shift. And it's not the round doing it. It's literally the optic or the red dot placement on your target and where your eye's looking at it with it. So by the book, a tubular style red dot, whether it's an aim point at the high dollar side of it or a holosun at the more affordable entry level side of it. There are cheaper versions, but all of them are junk. The Holosun 403B is by far the best value getting into red dots. Is you're supposed to use it with the front iron sight. So you don't have to by any stretch, but it's designed to be there. So if you do see impact shifts from left to right, a lot of times that is because your eye and where you're lining up on the red dot itself is out of place. So, but I just want to put that out there because it's also one of those things where people come in, they think they can slap this on here and they're like, this thing's a piece of shit. I'm hitting 6 inches left, I'm hitting 6 inches right, and then we take it out, put it in a lead sled, and it impact point is within, you know, margin of error. So
most optic heights, when you start talking about pretty much all these different kinds of optics, are going to be virtually the same as you would see with a standard set of iron sights. And the reason is you know, why reinvent the wheel?
Which is what, 193?
It's a 157 or 15 or something.
Yeah, it's 193. Then it's what, 226 for like the towering ones, like the Unity mount stuff.
Yeah, the skyscraper.
Yeah, that makes sense if you're using nods, but it does not make sense otherwise.
Most people who have already gone out and shot before are used to kind of the head position of where the iron sights would naturally rest. So most red dots are going to be sitting at about that exact same height anyway. And it also gives you the ability to use iron sights in conjunction with most of these optics, if not all of them.
And that's something that was made famous, at least when we first started the industry, was, and the whole reason Magpul calls them backup iron sights,
right,
bus sights, is, and it's a good thing to have. However, the battery life on this glass is what, 30 to 50,000 hours for a lot of the tubular style stuff. Holographic less,
and that's for the ones that don't shut off.
Yeah,
a lot of the newer ones nowadays, they have auto shut off.
Yeah,
you know what the battery life on a set of iron sights is, though?
Oh yeah,
oh, very long.
Yeah,
very, very long.
But as a Marine, I'm not. You figure out a way to break it,
probably.
But I mean, all the red dots that are on guns behind me, and I know behind Andrew too, all the red dots are on. I change batteries on my birthday, and then they keep running. So
yeah,
you're not going to turn it on, and tomorrow it's going to be dead.
I change my batteries maybe once a year, and yeah, I never turn my red dots off. They're always on. They're always set to exactly where I like them to be, and I just change the batteries once a year.
Yeah, the most batteries and optics are going to be the wafer battery, the CR2032. There's a couple other smaller ones that use a little different battery. CR123s. And then EOTech typically is CR123, but the EOTech 512 actually takes AA's. So,
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options that are out there. And what you really have to ask yourself, especially if you have to buy one rifle and put one optic on it, what am I going to put on my gun? So let's walk through a couple examples of use case. So for me, what I used to reference all the time was we had a local range out here that was an outdoor range called Dillon. It went out to 100 yards, and before we opened Buckeye Shooting Center, I only got a chance to go out there once or twice a year to shoot at 100 yards. And something like a tubular style red dot, like a 403B or something like that, no problem. I can hit little tiny steel targets all the way out at 100 yards, no issues. That said, if you go out to Briar Rabbit in Zanesville, you can go out to 500 yards. Will a red dot handle 500 yards? Yeah, you can do it, but
It would definitely be challenging.
But in a case like that, when you want to shoot at 100, 200, all the way out to 500 at different variable distances, an LPVO comes into play because you can still shoot that thing at closer distances, like a red dot type distance, because you're at 1x, versus, you know, at 4 power, 6 power, 8 power, 500 yards and get impacts too. So what you have to ask yourself is, what distances am I going to be shooting most often? And what is the frequency that I'm going to be shooting it at? So, do you have anything to add with that? I mean, you're much more of an optic guy than I am. I shoot much closer.
The big question that I see all the time is, you know, our red dot cabinet has dozens of examples of red dots in it. And I will always have a customer that asks me to show them an aim point and to show them a holosun and say, why? Why would I ever choose the $700 option over the $120 option? And this is exactly what I tell every single person. The rifle that you are putting this on, what is the goal of this rifle? Is this something you're going to take to the range for fun and entertainment and to train and to practice and to just enjoy as a, you know, maybe not a toy, but as just a general entertainment value item? Something that you're trying to get into, get some practice, and have some fun with. If that's the case, throw a holosun on there, spend more money on ammo and classes, and have a great time. You know what I mean? Yep. But if this rifle is the rifle that you're putting next to your bedside, this is the only rifle that you're going to have, this is the one that you plan to, you know, defend your life, defend your home, defend your family with.
Using the zombie apocalypse.
Using the zombie apocalypse. No matter what, this gun can never fail you. That means neither can this optic. And if that's the road I'm going down, I'm picking the aim point, or I'm taking the Trijicon any day.
Well, you know me, I'm a Trijicon fanboy. So I don't own any aim points, but I own a lot of Trijicon products. And after getting aim point as in the store for the first time ever, I'm thoroughly impressed. I've shot T2s before. I've shot PROs before. They're amazing. But I always had that question too. Why would I drop $600-700 on something that's essentially
the same thing,
3x the cost? Well, use case, it's literally, how often are you going to use it? What are you using it for? If you're a recreational shooter, this Holosun 403B will do everything you want to do. Yeah. If you're one of those guys that has to be a status guy, which no problem with, I'm one of those guys with certain things, is, you know, you want the aim point because it's the best, great, totally fine. But in all honesty, the Holosun 403B and the aim point T2 in a vacuum will get you the exact same results with your bullets going.
There's really only two things that the holosun can't do that the aim point can. You can't use a holosun with night vision. But if you have a $5,000 set of night vision, you shouldn't be using a $100 red dot, okay? And you can't hammer in tent stakes with your holosun. I wouldn't recommend doing it with your aim point, but you probably could.
That's what I'm saying, durability. So, yeah, well, this has already been a little longer than what we anticipated, but I think it's really good information for the folks at home, especially because we ask this question a lot.
Oh, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's up to you and what you want to do. But we have options. We have lots of options. And the last thing I'll leave you with before we wrap this up is, do not buy shit on Amazon.
Oh, my God.
Because you see it and it's $100 cheaper, $200 cheaper, there's a reason. It's a fucking knockoff. We have a pile that we're acquiring of just blown out pieces of glass.
Yeah.
From optics, because they're Chinese knockoffs that people are getting ripped off on online. Go to a licensed dealer or buy from a licensed dealer online. Do not buy from Amazon. Half of the time, people get them, they break them, and then we warranty the brands that we have, and we send them back, and they send them back to us and say, this is not real.
There's a lot. It's very bad. I've talked to a lot of customers who they come here for gunsmithing services because they say that their rifle is broken or it's shooting wildly all over the place. And the very first thing I noticed when I open up the box is that they have a $19 Amazon red dot on there. And I have to sit there and explain to them that, you know, there's kind of a threshold for these kinds of things. And if this optic is cheaper than, I mean, I probably put the cutoff at like $100 or $75. If it's cheaper than that, it's not really meant for a real gun.
Or it's airsoft.
That's what it's probably meant for, is something like airsoft or something like a paintball gun, something that will never experience recoil or anything like that.
Yeah, so moral of the story, I'm not trying to make sure, like, come to Buckeye Shooting Center, we're the only place that's legit. Just go to a licensed dealer. Any reputable gun shop is going to carry products, because we all buy from this, either from the manufacturer or from reputable wholesalers. Yeah, that get the product directly from the manufacturer. So
unfortunately, the world of optics is a world full of counterfeits.
Oh my god,
and it gets bad real fast,
very fast. So yeah, just see a licensed dealer. If you ever have questions, we're more than happy to help you out. Just because we don't carry it in the store doesn't mean we can't get it, and also doesn't mean we don't have opinions on it. There are certain things that we don't carry in the store because we don't like them. SIG Optics being one of the biggest early on.
Did you see they just came out with a new $4,000 EOTech clone?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It clones everything.
It's not even a holographic.
Oh wow!
It's just a red dot.
So it's the $1,500 Holosun, essentially.
But it's $4,000.
Yeah, but yeah.
So
that doesn't surprise me. It's SIG.
So it has multi reticle, and every individual reticle is individually zeroable.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
But that's why it's $4,000.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty cool. But I mean, you could also just learn the fundamentals and know where your holds are.
Holds? No, SIG doesn't know what holds on.
They're like, we're gonna make
more zeros.
Yeah, we're gonna make a mousetrap, but we're just gonna make it out of gold.
There you go.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. I'm gonna take a couple seconds, real quick. Our social media channels are just getting absolutely or I shouldn't say that. Or take the hard R approach from Ruger. We're getting screwed royally. I'll bleep the other part out. We're getting screwed royally by Meta, so Facebook and Instagram. We'll be posting daily content on YouTube with some shorts and stuff, and then our full-blown long-form content like this. And then we're going to add more frequency to that with some of that stuff. We'll be posting on Twitter and on TikTok. We have blessed accounts on all those platforms, and we will not get shit on by the Zuckster. So we will continue to operate our other socials while they exist, but our Instagram account is gone. And our new Facebook page has already got 2 strikes out of 3. So don't look for that to be around for very long. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video. If you really want to get content from us, you really need to check out our channels, whether it be YouTube, TikTok, or Twitter. And then if you want to get more frequent updates on product, deliveries, sales, stuff like that, sign up for our email blast. We don't send it out nearly as much as like a Palmetto does or like some of the other guys do. We send out a few emails a week, but you get deals, you get to be informed of what's coming up, especially all of our cool events and things like that. So stay tuned for a lot of really cool stuff that's coming out. But sign up for our email blast because we're just Meta, Facebook, and Instagram are just done. So, but do you have anything else to add? I think we did a pretty good job of explaining this. If you guys have any questions on any of this stuff, please throw them down in the comments. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. It helps grow the channel. Again, we're not monetized. We don't care about that. We just want to put out good content. But we definitely want to hear if we've missed something here. I mean, we didn't touch on magnified optics, so there's a reason. We live in Central Ohio. You can't see more than 500 yards in a straight line. So
well,
we did touch on like
if you're
long-range magnified optics.
If you're seeing more than 500 yards, you're seeing a lot of corn.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, you could see 500 yards in a straight line about 6 months out of the year. Once the corn starts growing, you're screwed.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, if you guys have anything that you want to see here, whatever, we've got plenty of experience and plenty of people out there. But let us know. Put it in the comments below. But other than that, that's Andrew. I'm Zach, and we'll see you soon.